the show is the Dubai special with Andrea Sartori of KPMG Golf, who talks about where the business is taking the game.
And of course, there is a promotional element. It's not only a matter of developing those golf courses, but also promoting the destination.
In news, Bubba Watson edges Simpson out to win Zurich Classic with its drama well intact. And learn how to get yourself straight onto the green.
Today's tip is going to be on a shot which we play from just outside the putting green.
Great pleasure to have on the show Dr. Andrea Sartori. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're very welcome.
First question, Dr. Sartori. How does a doctorate and golf come together for you?
It's a good question. I'm an accountant by background. I study business economics, but after a couple of years I was working for KPMG. I started my career in South Africa. I started to get involved in the hospitality, leisure and tourism industry. And then at one point I actually realized that the golf industry, which in the meanwhile golf became a passion for me as a game, had actually not much let's say, professionalism in the field of consulting, in the field of research, and that's basically I started up a division within KPMG and basically established a business that was definitely not the typical one for KPMG.
So how did it all start, and how many years have you been doing this?
I've been with the firm for 16 years. I became a partner 8 years ago, but basically I've been involved in the golf industry for the past 12, 13 years.
Wow, 12, 13 years. And I know that while every kind of business, game, and of course there are enough power lists in the world about billionaires, etc., there's one very important list on which you are number 31, the most powerful people in golf. And it's amazing because you are a non-player from a professional point of view, and you're not a typical star in that sense. So how do you find yourself on that list, the 31st most powerful man in golf?
I was surprised myself. Of course, I was proud of it, and I think I demonstrated the fact that myself, KPMG, did something right in investing into the golf advisory business. It's very much a niche of the leisure industry, but it was an industry that definitely required more research, more professionalism, and therefore we made a move into it, which in the long term has paid off.
When you say it's paid off, what do you mean by the idea of paying off? Is it a return that you've seen over eight years? Is it fresh investments? Has it got supplementary work for KPMG? How do you interpret it?
I mean, we work for some of the largest players in the field of golf, especially in development. We are very much involved in the golf and real estate dimension of the business, golf resort, golf communities. So we work for some key players. And of course, this has been a nice add-on for KPMG. Is a very unique area of consulting from our perspective. We are also heavily involved as KPMG in terms of sponsoring the Ryder Cup, the European leg of the Ryder Cup, sponsoring Phil Mickelson. So there is already a very, very strong association of KPMG with the golf industry. So the advisory part is a nice add-on, and I have to say also a profitable one for us.
It's very interesting. Well, as you get into this whole advisory story, you talk about research in golf, which I suppose is something that's been so ignored for many years. There isn't a real way to get into doing all of this. There isn't a way to study too much golf. There isn't a way to get down to, researching too much. And in that sense, KPMG has been a first mover?
I think we have been definitely the first mover. We are, I would say, leader in the field of golf advisory in Europe, Middle East and Africa. None of the big four of the large consulting companies has such a specialized unit. But at the end of the day, the idea came to the fact that the golf industry is a huge industry, but the business have not been treated somehow in terms of research and analysis in such a professional way, because at the end of the day what we are actually doing is providing business advisory work to developers, to existing operating golf courses, assisting with transaction, which is something that is very normal in so many industries, but it was not normal in the golf industry. That was a very, very basic idea applied to a niche industry.
In this niche industry, there's also what is being looked at as a new market. I mean, one of the reasons why every one of us is here at the Golf Business Forum is to discuss where is the next big business opportunity in golf. Where do you see it, Andreas?
I mean, I would say that if I would have to mention 3 markets today, I would definitely mention China as number 1, India as number 2, and possibly South America with a particular focus probably on Brazil, being the 3 top market where I see most of the opportunity for the next 10-15 years.
But this opportunity is theoretical, also less practical in places like Brazil, India compared to China, because China looks at everything through a business magnifying glass where they can make money or they can cut costs.
Yes.
They're out there to compete.
Yes, they are out there to compete, but I think that the golf product, driven very much from real estate, is going to be very appealing to the Chinese market. And the same thing I think is very much applicable to India.
In that sense, I mean, I know you haven't spent too much time in India, but you've been to Bangalore, you've been to Delhi. What do you see is exciting about a country like India? I'm going to get into China in more detail in just a bit, because, you know, we suddenly are on the top of this golfing map with people like Jeev Milkha Singh, Jyoti Randhawa, Shiv Kapoor, and now Arjun Atwal. So, you know, there's so much news around India suddenly.
Yeah, I think that India has a great potential for the development of golf community because there is going to be a huge demand for quality homes. And at the end of the day, a nice housing estate on a golf course is just a nice master plan communities develop around a big garden called golf course. This is what it's all about. At the end of the day in India, at the moment, not more than 10% of the people who are actually living on a golf course are actually golfers.
Yeah.
What they are actually buying, they are buying the lifestyle of living on a golfing estate.
That's such a valid point, because at many times you wonder if people are more interested in the lifestyle of golf than golf itself in India. But is that something you don't see in China? China, you see real golfers, serious stuff?
The reality is very, very typical of emerging market. If you take any emerging market, and we are here in Dubai, and it's typical also of this market, even in Dubai, between 15 and 20% of the houses developed on golf courses actually contain in the household a person who is actually playing golf. If you take much more mature market like Australia, like South Africa, like the United States, like Ireland, you will actually find that over 50% of the houses actually have at least a player. Now, India is somehow a developing country, China as well, where, of course, golf is not yet such a popular sport. It's a sport of the elite, is a sport to actually get involved into business. But it will change over time. It will require a few decades to get there. Take a city like Johannesburg, is really perfect climate for 365 days a year. In the Middle East, we basically have, let's say, 300 or 270 playable days. The low season is basically the summer season, where it's simply too hot to play, but people are still playing.
Welcome back. You're watching Tea Time with me, Shaili Chopra, coming to you from the Dubai Creek, and a very special guest. Well, let me add again, 31st most important man in golf in the world today, Andrea Sartori, with us. Thanks very much for staying with us through that break. Let's focus on what is really the new trend that we're going to expect Golf Business Forum to set. I was reading about how, in terms of courses, in terms of profit-seeking courses, Middle East has 98% of these courses that are off-profit category. I mean, is Middle East really still the hub for the game?
I mean, I wouldn't say that Middle East is the hub for the game, is still a relatively a small market, because we're talking about 30 plus facilities existing in the Middle East, but they have been very profitable in the Middle East. Although even from an accounting perspective here, we need to be a little bit careful, because the way they account for water, it influences very much the results of those profit and loss account, and there is not so much transparency in it. So, but definitely from a turnover perspective, golf courses in the Middle East turn a huge amount of money, also because they are a bit of a catalyst for social life in the city where they are placed. So they really proper country club capable of attracting family, not only playing golf, but going to the gym, spending a lot of money in the food and beverage department of these facilities. That's why they have been so in a way successful.
But I was reading about how there are nearly 45,000 rounds of golf, members and green fee pairs in the Middle East. That's more than anywhere else in the world.
The reality, of course, that the climatic conditions are favorable for that, but there are other countries around the world. For example, South Africa is a perfect example. If you take a city like Johannesburg, it's really perfect climate for 365 days a year. In the Middle East, we basically have, let's say, 300 or 270 playable days. The low season is basically the summer season, where it's simply too hot to play, but people are still playing, and they are still bringing in those numbers, especially members who are living here. They're still playing, and that's why they can reach those high numbers.
When one looks at the whole list of what could be the top 15 tourism hotspots for golf, I noticed that India doesn't come till about number 12.
Yes.
That's somewhat unfortunate, because in many ways golf and tourism are so intricately linked that there's so much one can do with them.
Absolutely.
For some reason, we don't see India very high up on the golf tourism map. What do you think could be the reason for that, broadly?
I think it's an issue of somehow developing a cluster of golf courses in a relatively small area, golf courses that are accessible within, let's say, 30 minutes drive, 5, 6, 7 golf courses that give an option of play to players, to tourists coming to India. And of course, there is a promotional element. It's not only a matter of developing those golf courses, but also promoting the destination. It's important also to develop, for example, facilities like hotels and conference that goes very, very well. The conference business, the spa and wellness business goes very, very well with the golf business. So you need to create the synergies between these products in order to be able to succeed. My favorite one remains Tiger Woods. I still believe he's a fantastic player, but of course, being Italian, I love Manassero and I love the Molinari brothers.
Today's tip is going to be on a shot which we play from just outside the putting green.
When we look at the Golf Business Forum 2011, what are we expecting to see the next few years to be like in terms of trends in golf, and particularly golf real estate, golf emerging markets? Like you were saying, the next few markets that you want to focus on includes China, India and Brazil. What kind of trends are you likely to see there? Are you going to see a larger number of junior golfers, more communities, more real estate-led development? What?
I think one of the trends that I would like to see, and there have been countries that have been particularly successful in that, is more participation of women in golf.
Okay.
So if you take, for example, the Scandic market, if you take a market like the Netherlands, a market like Austria and Germany, they have developed so fast in golf because they have been able to attract such a high number of women. In Austria and Germany, more than a third of club members are actually women, which is quite an impressive number when you compare it, for example, to the UK market, which has a significantly longer tradition. So definitely women. I think that one of the trends that we will also see it is somehow the need to shorten the time to play golf. So I think we will see more par 3 type of courses, alternative form of golf. There has been the launch recently of power golf.
Yes, I was just going to come to power golf.
Yeah, it's an example of something that is going to try to make the golf play shorter and in a way also more exciting.
You know, you said power play, and I'm very curious to ask you, you're a golfer yourself. What got you into the game? Work?
No, actually we're friends. Friends who invited me about 15 years ago to play to see what it's all about golf, to try to go to the driving range, and I got hooked by it. So
and you made it your business.
And I made it. Yes, this is always what I say. I have the fortune in a way to have been capable of making out of my hobby my business, and this is a fantastic thing.
It is indeed. Your favorite courses, how difficult is that?
I've seen many also with my work, and I work on many. I value many beautiful golf courses. I've been involved in transaction. Possibly Valderrama.
Valderrama?
Yes.
Wow, I've heard so much about that course.
Yeah.
You know, there are always favorite players, even if you're on a par list of the best in golf. Who are your favorite players, both women and men?